Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again, and a very warm tansei to Chief Evan.
Hey, tansei na tutamak Evan Taypotat na tsiga sun Kahkewistahaw First Nation of Chinia. What I said in my Cree language was "Go Blue Jays, go." Kidding. One of the things that I like to live by, as a leader, one of the things I like to do is I have a little saying that is, if you're the smartest person in a room, you're in the wrong room. Being here today with you all, seeing all the great speakers, seeing the people in the crowd taking notes, I know that I'm in the right room because there's some awfully smart people in this room. When I was asked to be here from Steve about 6 weeks back, I thought I would come on stage and tell you about who we are as people, who the First Nation people are of Kahkewistahaw. But I think it would be a missed opportunity if I just stood up here and talked. A picture is worth 1,000 words, so I think what I'd like to do is show you a 3-minute video just of who we are, what we're doing, and a little bit about the complexities of who the Cree people of Kahkewistahaw are. Kahkewistahaw First Nation is located in Treaty 4 territory, 2 hours east of Regina, Saskatchewan. We are 2,374 people strong, with 800 people living on the First Nation and another 1,600 living throughout North America. Our people are strong and proud Cree people. We have been on our First Nation since 1874, when Chief Kahkewistahaw signed Treaty 4. Before residential school, our people thrived in this land. We knew our language, we knew our culture, and along came residential school. That effect took that from our people. To support community wellness, we have made a dedicated effort to revitalize our culture and language. Our elders programs recognize their efforts and connect them with the next generations. This is how their teachings pass on to the young ones.
We're teaching them how to provide in Indian ways of their life, how they can teach in the near future to their kids too.
Now, our school has 4 language teachers and a dedicated department to land-based knowledge. Things such as hunting, teepee making, trapping, and skinning are part of things that we teach our youth at our school. Everything we do is based on ensuring that these young ones have opportunity as adults. They are our future leaders.
We are building them, guiding them. We're working together as a team, as a community, as a village to bring that leadership from ground up.
If I was to be a leadership when I'm older, then I would know what it's like because of the opportunity I was given in high school.
Our leadership team has invested our settlements in land development across Saskatchewan and forged partnerships with industry that generate growing revenues we invest back in our community and economy. As a result, our members are staying at home, and there's a long list of members wanting to return.
I see great things that are going to happen in the future, and many opportunities with our education programs, our health programs, and our economic development programs.
We have scholarships for grade 12 graduates and many on-reserve training and education programs. We're building homes and infrastructure that support our community's path to sovereignty.
Thinking of our children unborn, there is hope for them, there is promise, there is strong foundations here that they can build on.
Our goal is to have a self-sustaining community rich in culture, language, and opportunity.
That was indeed 1,000 words, so thank you so much for sharing that with us. And a little bit was mentioned in the video, but for those of you who don't know the history of Canada, there have been systemic barriers to Indigenous peoples accessing capital for a long time as a result of colonialism and a failure to recognize Indigenous jurisdiction, as well as systemic discrimination. Back in 2015, the Canadian government released 94 calls to action as part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. To date, only 14 of those have been fully implemented, so that's been 10 years. But it was definitely a acknowledgement and recognition of the challenges and opportunities facing Indigenous peoples. And so as a result, I did want to ask you, because there are now opportunities coming, what is the size of that opportunity, Chief Evan, in terms of working with Indigenous peoples?
Thanks, Melissa. So when the TRC recommendations came out in 2015, there was 94 of them. One of the things that gave us ammo. For 151 years to date, we've never really been recognized as these people. We were just kind of put on the First Nations, taken to residential school, and essentially took the Indian out of the Indian. What the TRC recommendations did, it gave us finally acknowledgement to who we are, the systemic racism, the barriers that have put in place. And along that time, the Liberals at the time who were in power and still in power in Canada, a man by the name of Justin Trudeau, people love him or hate him, but he gave the direction to settle claims. So what I would tell a room full of very American investment type people are, in the last fiscal year, there's been $7.1 billion worth of specific claims settled in Canada. There's 674 First Nations, all of Canada, right? I visited an investment firm yesterday that has 20 clients. 20 clients have taken those settlement claims, and they now invest $1 billion. So talking to the American crowd today, I would say there's a lot of First Nations in Canada that are settling claims. There's a lot of First Nations that would say, hey, come be our partner. But we have a little word in our language, and it's Wagotawin. And the Wagotawin word means relationship, kinship. Okay, we're not just going to accept you into our community and say, yes, take our dollars and go put them to work for us. You're going to have to come to our communities and seek that acceptance, but it's not a hard thing because my people are very welcoming people. So I would advise the people of USA, investment people in this room, make an Indigenous swing. And in that Indigenous swing, go out and pursue some of those dollars that are in Canada, because there's a firm international firm in New York City that has $1 billion worth of our dollars, and they're put to work for us. Right now, my First Nation has $170 million invested. $170 million. We're building a road in Germany. We're building a hospital in Kentucky. Those are things that we are doing. It's why I wanted to show the video, because those people in the video all need to ensure that the dollars work for us, because as Josephine said in the video, we're investing our dollars for the future. We're planning essentially for 7 generations ahead, because it's taken us 7 generations to get on this stage right here and tell our story.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And when you're taking those meetings and you have investors coming to you and wanting to work with you, what specifically are you looking for in a partner?
I think just genuine. On our First Nation right now, we do business with people with good hearts. If we're just a dollar sign to you, don't come knocking on our teepee, don't come knocking on our door. But if you generally want to be a partner and want to understand our people, seek us out and come and see that. Right now, we have an economic development wing right now, a board that's out there meeting right now. It's full of mayors, it's full of bankers, it's full of businessy type people. And they're just in a room right now in Saskatoon as we speak, trying to figure out ways to get it right. Because if we have $170 million invested, all those other opportunities come. We like a 7% return on our investment. We'll take 10% any day of the week as well. But right now, that group right now is trying to figure out how do we better serve all those people that you just seen in the video.
Gotcha. And Steve, thinking about National Bank, what is your approach to reconciliation and working with First Nations?
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Well, when people say economic reconciliation, I bet if you went around this room, you could go back 2 or 3 years and people say, I'd never heard of it before. But anybody in Canada who studied in history, one of the first things they learned, probably in grade 8, was this thing called the British North American Act. And the BNA Act goes back to the creation of Canada, where you had the European settlers and you had Indigenous people realizing that the land was going to be occupied by both. So the Act promised in 1867 that going forward, Indigenous communities would benefit economically in the growth of Canada, have access to resources, have access to make sure their way of life was maintained and respected, and it all changed. 9 years later, 8 years later, when the Indian Act came in, it absolutely put up barriers that shut that down. So we are not doing what's new. Economic reconciliation was the dream of what Canada was meant to be. So National Bank, some people know, some people don't know, we have done sponsorships for Right to Play for children. Get them out, have fun. We've done literacy for those that are having challenges in educational system in elementary school. Get them on the right path so that learning becomes fun, not something they avoid. We have National Arts Council, Aboriginal artists supported. One of the main things that National Bank did was put a $100 million line of credit up, 2013. And that $100 million line of credit allowed Indigenous communities to borrow for the first time at rates that paralleled what provinces pay in Canada. Every other bank said no. So a lot of these things aren't well known. And we have two people over there, Rachel and James, who are looking after FNFA now, doing a great job. But what is needed to do economic reconciliation is more than just debt. You have to know your client. Structure your bank in such a way that when you get to know your client and the economic opportunities or their community needs and priorities come in, you can respond to those quickly, you can respond to them respectfully, and you can respond to them in a time that meets their needs. So we have structured ourselves that when we talk to communities, all departments are ready to respond. It's not a junior staff person, it's a senior staff person that's given their thoughts back. We are positioned so that when a client says, come visit us, we'll visit them. You know, there's that thing in the finance world, KYC, know your client. If you don't get to know your client, you never understand the relationship, how to build it, how to grow it, because it shouldn't just be for a project, it should be for years to come. So National Bank is very proud to be on this journey. I think we've structured ourselves in such a way that we can be a trusting partner along this economic path that's long overdue. But the one thing that I would like to say is when you consider a partnership, a lot of times you consider it contractual. You have a need, you have a person that fulfills it, you meet in the middle, you sign it, go your own ways. Different here. What you need is what's called a true partnership. And National Bank has started that in a project that I'm working on with Evan, is that if the bank provides services or its products or advisory service and get paid for that, then the Indigenous communities need to benefit also. So a true partnership is one where both sides walk away and say we're better off now than we were earlier in the day. So I'm very proud of where we are. I think we have an exciting path going forward, and I think National Bank can be a National Bank can be a financial institution that has the trust of the Indigenous communities going forward.
Okay, thank you. You know, we have seen in Canada after the election of Prime Minister Mark Carney, this push toward what we call major projects. So there's been talk about building pipelines and LNG and you know, a port and all that kind of thing. And you know, there was a bit of controversy over how First Nations and Indigenous peoples would be involved in these decisions. So Chief Evan, what are your thoughts on kind of how this push for major projects will affect your community?
Yeah, I think there's a misconception about our people, and they think that we're against pipelines, we're against all these. We're not. We are pro-living, we are pro-life. It just so happens for 151 years we've been left out of the conversation. There's a difference there. So we on Kahkewistahaw First Nation are pro-oil and gas because we are pro-sovereignty, and we want to make sure that we set ourselves up for success for going forward. In terms of the Major Projects Coalition, Canada is essentially saying to us right now, trust us First Nations people, trust us Indigenous people, we'll do right by you. And for 151 years, they haven't done right by us. So for us, we're optimistic that Prime Minister Carney and his cabinet are going to do right by us. We now have an advisory council in place. Chief Darcy Bear is on that, and my good friend Lauren Pelche from the Manitoba Métis Federation. We know they got the right people at the table. The proof will be in the pudding in about a year from now if Mark Carney is serious about economic reconciliation.
Right. And Steve, how are you seeing that show up in your practice in terms of the major projects push?
Oh, there's so much opportunity coming down. And, you know, the Supreme Court of Canada has ruled again and again and again that if you want to do projects in Canada, start talking to the Indigenous communities, because if it goes across their territorial land, they should be consulted. They should be have discussions with them, and they should be included, whether they want the opportunity or not. And a lot of the businesses, you know, that I talked to said, we'd love to do that, but how do we contact them? Where do we start? You know, we have a project we'd like to do, and it goes from A to B, and there's probably a bunch of communities whose lands it goes over. How do we even start talking to them? And it's one of those areas where, you know, sometimes a phone call to me or somebody, if you know somebody else at National Bank, we can get it going. But once you start knowing who to talk to, you'll be surprised at how quickly it develops from there. So it is unavoidable, the economic reconciliation that's coming, but it's also a huge opportunity, because when you didn't have reconciliation, you had objections to certain projects, and it caused them to stall, it caused cost overruns. When you do have reconciliation, you have all sides at the table. And when you have all sides at the table, you're going to find out the budget that you have has a much better chance of getting fulfilled on time and within the cost that you want, because all sides have had input and all sides agree to the path that it's going. So I think it starts with picking up the phone, contacting somebody you know that maybe can put you in touch with somebody that you should be talking with, and go from there. We'd be happy to facilitate that.
Interesting. Chief Evan, when you and your community are thinking about the types of projects that you want to invest in, what are some of the criteria that you look at?
I think just like I stated earlier, just reaching out, making sure you have a good intentions, good heart. I think lost on all that is health is directly related to wealth. Health is directly related to wealth. And when my people are the poorest people in the country, we are the unhealthiest people. And that's the way Canada made it. So for us right now, it's about addressing those barriers, addressing reconciliation, and ensuring that we have the opportunity. So when people come to us and knock on our teepee and they say, hey, we want to be partners with you, we do really want to be partners. How we're different from the tribes from the States, United States, is in Canada, we got that word that Steve keeps referring to called reconciliation. We have say now. You can't just build something without us because that happened for far too long. And in turn, we're the poorest people in the land. So right now, we're trying to address that. We want to ensure that we live those long, meaningful, good lives that you want to live. Your anniversaries, your weddings, your graduations, those are just as important to our people. And so that's why we're sitting in rooms right now in Saskatoon. That's why we're at meetings with Steve Berna. That's why we're meeting with oil and gas, because we want to make sure we get the dollars from royalties. We want to make sure we get the procurement, because the jobs create money, money creates opportunity, opportunity creates breaking that cycle that residential school has put on my people. So that's what we talk about a little bit when we want to be included.
Could I add something, Melissa, please? So, you know, if anybody's sitting here, and I don't know how many people or investors in the room that buy municipal bonds, or you buy state bonds or provincial bonds, and you know, you take a look at the politicians that are at the municipal or state or provincial level, and you'll say, they govern. So how do you have a chief up here that's talking about business? Well, if you get to know an Indigenous community and you get to know their leadership has functions that overflow what you would call a regular politician. It is not uncommon in Canada for you to get funding that doesn't fully cover your educational costs, your health costs, your administrative costs, your social costs. He's responsible for making up the difference. The cents on the dollar that are missing from the federal funding in Canada, where does it come from? It falls upon leadership to look for business opportunities. So when you look at a Canadian First Nation and Canadian Indigenous community, think of them as part business. They need to be. But also on the governance side too, speaking for their people. So it is a bit of a different scenario than if you're just looking at what a state, province, or city does. You've got a business component here, which means the door is open, as Chief Evans said, if it's something that meets their requirements or their vision for their community.
And based on your experience, Steve, what needs or additional future investments do you foresee for Indigenous peoples generally as they come to your practice?
Well, they're all individual nations, and they all have their individual approach. I would say, minute 22 seconds left. Can I ask Chief Evan to answer that, what it means to his community, please?
Yeah, thank you for that, Steve. As you saw in the video, a lot of my First Nation members are in there. You've seen Kukumvesta in there. Kukumvesta was the lady in the red zip-up. She's lived a really hard, horrible, long life. And she got through all of that residential school. She got through all of the bullshit that Canada has thrown at us. So it's my job to be here on stage to ensure that she at home right now, what she did and what she went through is all for naught. It's our job as leadership. It's our job as chief and council. It's our job as the economic development team that's watching at home right now. It's our job to make sure that it's better. It's also our job to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. Reconciliation is a word we throw around in Canada all the time. Everybody, every business does it. Every investment firm, every oil and gas, they throw it around like it's going out of style. Reconciliation has to become reconciliation. And it can never be reconciliation rhetoric, because we will never repeat history. I will not let the people that are in that video be let down, because we owe it to them. In this room, we all owe it to them. We owe it to the original people of this land to help them be sovereign and help them live and help them strive. So,
well, I want to say Kinanas Komitin, which I think means thank you in Cree, and to all of you for your attention.
She just said go Jays, go
I did
Jays.
say go
That's
Jays.
what she said.
I did.
She said thank you in Cree. Kanaskomitin means thank you in Cree.
All right, and appreciate to all of you. Thank you, Steve, as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.